Tonight on RCVTV, we're going to be talking about the Theorem RTA by Wismec. Alright, so let's get into what's in the box. So, first thing you'll see on top is going to be your glass replacements and the tank itself. Now, the tank RTA itself comes pre-installed with one of the notch coils and actually already wicked, which is super awesome, and it comes installed with just a plain glass on it as well. Now, it also comes with an extra glass replacement, just in case you break your glass, as well as it comes with a metal and glass replacement, in case you want to use this, in case you're thinking you're going to break your glass. So this guy is actually metal on the outside with a glass center. It actually will make your tank stick out a little bit wider, but not by much. Alright, and we also have a bunch of spare O-rings, an Allen key, some extra screws, and a different airflow ring, which I will show you a little bit closer up in a second here, or two here, but you kind of need to see where on the device it is, but just keep in mind that it's either this one or the one that's already on the tank. You can't, it's not just a replacement part. You also have another notch coil already wicked as well, as you can see, and the leads are offset, so they're specifically designed to be used in this tank. You could probably jerry-rig it to work in another dripper or another RTA of some sort, but it is offset to work with this guy pretty well. And then last but not least, you do have a small little user's guide. There's not much else to it other than what's just kind of on the front and the back of this thing. There's no extra pages or anything like that. Alright, so with the Theorem here, it's kind of a very, very unique design, and that's because it kind of combines a normal RTA with a top coil Jenny style tank, and then makes it really, really easy to build on, and it doesn't require mesh. It uses more or less cotton. You probably could use it with mesh, but cotton's what they suggest. Now, with this guy, you do have this top cap that'll pull right off. You can see there's this big thing sticking out the side of it. This is for your side airflow option, and then this little hole on this side is your top flow option. The glass will just pull right off. It's harder to pull off than the top cap, which is a good thing, so you don't drop all your juice everywhere. And then you have the notch coil, like I said, already pre-installed, and you got your cotton draping down the side. Now, if you actually look on this side of the deck, you can see that there's actually 4 posts, or so 3, I guess, technically, but 4 holes. So 2 negative and 2 positive. Now, the weird thing is once you slap, say, your top cap off on, as long as, like, if you actually had glass on here, you can see that it actually covers up those holes. So you only have access to the 4 of them on the one side. So what that means is you're going to be building dual coils on this thing side by side, whether it be horizontal or vertical, or if you're just going to run single coil, you can center it just like they have with the notch coil centered on this. But it's only one-sided, although it does have the 4 posts. Now, the way this thing is designed is, let me just pull this cotton out for you guys. So the cotton itself will go through the center of your coil, or if you're running dual vertical or what have you, would go down through these little notches on the side here. And these notches go down into your well at the bottom, which is where your juice is actually going to be sitting. So when you have this cap on it, the way you actually fill this thing is through that one little hole there off to the side. So that hole is what you're going to be using to actually fill it. Now, it makes it kind of annoying and kind of difficult. If you got something, say, like where we're going to be using this video's OMC, it comes in a plastic bottle and it's got a very small tip on it. I found it very hard when I was using this thing to fill that up. So I would recommend, if you have some glass bottles with the syringes, I would use that for filling this thing up. Or if you have anything with a long needle on it, it's much easier. It'll avoid you getting air bubbles in there and having to wait it out, which is frustrating as all heck. So I'm gonna wick this up for you guys. I'm gonna show you what I would do for wicking for this thing, and we'll fill it up and then we'll take a vape on it. So when I'm wicking this thing up, the cotton that it comes with inside the actual, when you buy the device itself, it sits more or less almost right down to the well itself, like right down touching it, which is great because that means you'll use the most amount of juice that you have in your tank. The downside to it is it slows down how long it takes the juice to actually make it to your coil. So if you have juice absorbing down at the bottom here, it has to slowly travel up that wick to the very top, whereas if you actually cut the wick so it doesn't go all the way down to the bottom of the well, I find it works a heck of a lot better. Now, it's going to be to each his own kind of an idea with that, but basically what will happen now is when your juice is touching your thing or your cotton itself, it'll actually absorb a lot faster to your coil. Now, you might ask, how the heck do you get rid of the juice that's going to be at the very bottom of the tank? Well, what most people have been doing is just tipping it forward so the juice runs to the front of the glass up the wick. So you will have to tip it forward a couple times, but like I said, you can always still run it with the cotton drape down right to the bottom. I just didn't like using it that way. I found that I couldn't take a lot of hits back to back without getting a couple of dry hits in there. All right, so I'm just going to pop the glass back onto this bad boy. Now, the one thing I found to be very useful is I never wetted my wick on the coil itself until after my reservoir was filled up. And that was because you actually want there to be a little bit of a gap between the cotton and the glass on the front of this tank, because what will happen is when you're filling it up, you want the air that juice is pushing out to come out on that side. So if you juice up your coil first, it'll actually make a seal there and you'll actually get air bubbles, and it takes a lot longer to fill this tank up. Just a slow, steady hand if you're going to be using these bottles, but like I said, the glass syringe bottles or plastic tip bottles or a long needle tip bottle is a heck of a lot easier to use. So right up to that base right there, just like that. Nice and full. All right, now is when I would wet my coils. And the last thing I do is, it's actually really easy to use the Allen key that it comes with, but all I do is I take a small, thin little device or tool of some sort, and I actually just push down the side a little bit and make sure that the air itself can get between the cotton and the coil. I actually tilt it on the side here so you can see it a little bit better. So I stick this in, and I just make sure that I can get past that cotton and the little section where the cotton feeds in, just so there's that airflow coming through so you don't get any air bubbles trapped in the bottom there. Now, for the airflow on this guy, I told you I would talk about this. So the airflow on this die, if you've ever had an indestructible or seen an indestructible, I have a friend who has an indestructible, it's very similar to the way that works. So the whole top will actually spin off, and it'll actually come off in a couple different pieces here. So pull with the drip tip. So what you have is one of these little rings. It has a notch in one side, and then on the top of your actual top cap, there's two air holes. Now, this air hole on this side is going to be your top air filler. This hits directly on top of your coil. It's perfect for using the horizontal coils. It works a little less okay with, like, say, a vertical coil, because you might get a little bit of juice coming up through that air hole or up into your tip. And this one is actually attached to this little reducer piece here. And this actually takes it down to another hole down here, and it actually hits your coil from behind on the side. So this is more like your standard dripper or tank. It's a side airflow coil. So you can either have it with the little ring set up, you can either have it one way or the other way, or you can block it off as much as you want or open it up as much as you want as well. Now, the other part that comes in the bag is one that has a notch cut out on both sides. So if you want to run dual coil on this thing and you're finding it's way too hot, you can throw more air at it. Or if you want both to have top and side airflow, but you don't want too much, you can always put this back on here and kind of restrict the amount of air. So you can see it opens up both types of air hole. I would say that when you have this setup running on here, you do get a heck of a lot more air. So do keep that in mind. I would probably build your coils around the use of this. I wouldn't intend on just throwing this on there and hoping it would be okay. So we're gonna leave the original one back on there. And the way you actually lock this in place is you hold it kind of on the side with your fingers and you thread the whole top piece back on there. And just hold it in place so you don't lose your airflow. Perfect. And then last but not least, it does have a removable drip tip in case you guys are wondering. All right, so we're gonna take you back up top. We're gonna have a vape on this thing and I'll tell you basically how she goes. All right, so that was kind of the breakdown of the Theorem RTA. One thing I wanna touch up on here is there might be future videos on this guy, and that's because he's a fairly unique device. So as people kind of learn to use it more in a different way than how Wismec has kind of designed it, you'll probably see some interesting things come out about it. I'm just gonna take a quick puff on it here. I do have it sitting on the 521 tab. We do have a video on this, link down in the description for this. Awesome vape, excellent flavor, and I love that top airflow. I might actually be trying the side airflow a little bit later just to see how it works with the notch coils. The last thing I wanted to mention is what resistance the notch coils come out, since it comes with it. They should pop out somewhere in the neighborhood of like a 0.25 to a 0.3. Mine's reading out at a 0.26 there. Other than that, thanks for watching, and as always,
subscribe to the channel, like the videos, follow us on Instagram and Twitter,
like us on Facebook, and until next time,
make smart choices.